So the good news is I've managed to get myself back to Johto. You can actually fly anywhere from Kanto to the Indigo Plateau, and then from there back to Johto anytime you want, so there's no need to get the bloody train running again or anything like that, so you can just get back here whenever you want. So I've managed to get back here to the move tutor so that I can teach this thing the special move set that I was deliberating over for Lord knows how long, and I've come to the decision to utilize. Now, let me go through with Air Cutter and Air Slash. Okay, they're the same accuracy. Air Slash is obviously just far better, so we will be teaching this over Aerial Ace, just a like-for-like replacement here. And since I have the wide lens fitted onto this thing, it's not ever going to miss. And with the speed that Crobat has, if it can't knock something out with a +2 special attack Air Slash, it still has a shot to flinch. So that's a nice little bonus to have with the move. And then next we will put the obvious Nasty Plot is obvious onto this thing. The only thing that can really be taken off at this point is U-Turn. I'm pretty sure I can get more Tims for U-Turn in case I decide I want to teach it to somebody else. But the plan here is to basically just sort of have a special equivalent to Trap Tricks, because I've got Trap Tricks as a physical sweeper. Crobat is basically just going to be the special sweeper of the team. It doesn't sound like it would make sense, because it's more of a physical attacker by nature, but at least this actually takes advantage of its modest nature. And so lastly, we're going to go with Sludge Bomb over Cross Poison. And the setup is basically going to be exactly the same as Trap Tricks. 2 powerful stab moves, stat up move, and a sleep move so that we can get that stat up move without getting our shit wrecked. And that should be about it. Not too sure if there are any other Sludge Bomb teams in the game, but I'd say it was pretty well spent here, so... Anyways, fly back to Indigo Plateau, because we can't fly directly from Johto into Kanto. I mean, aside from Indigo Plateau, but... This is basically how it works out until such time as we have a more reliable form of transport, like, for example, the train. So, that was the first order of business. The second is to obtain another gym badge. So let me go ahead and grab Talia out here. It's the irony with giving Sludge Bomb the irony with giving this Bobat this new moveset is that it's probably not actually going to be that useful against rock, because there's going to be a lot of rock types and ground types, and they resist both of Bobat's attacks. So may have to reserve the testing out for a little bit later on when I'm actually able to do it against the little trainers in Route 3 and in Mountain Moon. I expect to get through Mountain Moon before the end of this segment, so there's probably going to be another rival fight in along with this, so it's going to be quite the battle heavy segment. So here you can obviously just dodge the trainers if you so wish. I don't see any real reason to do that, so we're just going to get this out of the way. And I will reserve the Pokemon playthrough of the day. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to reserve the Pokemon playthrough of the day until afterwards, because I've got a lot to talk about with this upcoming Pokemon playthrough of the day. Let me go ahead and quickly bring up the team display here, just so I know what I'm talking about in regards to my team. But I'm not going to be talking about the team itself for a bit of a while, and you'll find out why, because the next playthrough that I need to talk about here is Pokemon Crystal Kaizo. If you do not know what Pokemon Crystal Kaizo is, you might have a fair idea if you know what the word Kaizo is supposed to mean if you're adding it to if you're naming a ROM hack after that. Basically, it's just ridiculous difficulty. It's molded in a somewhat similar way to Drayano's hacks, in which all the gym leaders, all the noteworthy trainers and stuff like that, all have 6 Pokemon on their team. It's a lot harder. It's self-contained, so you're able to obtain all the Pokemon in the game here. In this case, it's just the 251 since it's Crystal. And you just sort of go through and you kick ass and you get a whole bunch of Pokemon that you wouldn't normally have access to at really early points in the game. The only problem is that it's very, very poorly made, and it is probably the worst ROM hack that I've ever played in my entire life. And I don't even know where to begin with how terrible this ROM hack is. First off, the most of the areas in the game, like particularly the routes and stuff like that, are built in such a way that you are basically railroaded into where the game wants you to go. There's literally only one path that's like one tile wide, and you have to go through that. And that is going to include a whole bunch of grass with a whole bunch of Pokemon that could well outspeed you, so you're going to have trouble getting away. Then there are trainers with Pokemon, with like unfathomably powerful Pokemon. You may find yourself in a situation where you will need to get up to a trainer, beat them, and then go back to the Pokemon Center to heal, and just rinse and repeat every single time. The worst part, like the part where it gets really, really bad, is on Route 34, because you've got about 5 or 6 trainers that you have to knock over on this route, and even if you're decent at the game, each of those trainers is probably going to knock over maybe 2 or 3 Pokemon on your team, so you're going to want to heal. The problem, however, is that at Route 34, the closest place that you can heal without having to deal with any more trainers is back in Azalea Town, which requires you to backtrack all the way through Route 34, as well as Ilex Forest, which is also a freaking arduous task in and of itself, just to go back and heal. And you run the risk of running into wild Pokemon that can outspeed you and could probably clean you up if you've only got like 2 half-dead Pokemon left on your team. So the odds are quite likely that on your way back, you could just end up at the Pokemon Center, not as a result of walking back, but as a result of waiting out. And that's just going to cost you half your freaking cash stack. And that's just going to get you into an even shittier position than you are already in, because you're going to need as much cash stack as you possibly can for all of the healing items that you're going to need over the course of the game. That's how terrible that's just the first part. The next part I get to talk about is the incredibly, I'm hesitant to say retarded, because I don't quite like saying that word, just because people can be sensitive to it, but it is a very, very, very stupid level curve. You are dealing with, it doesn't seem that bad, like if you're going up against the first gym, because I think Fulton's just got a team of like level 15s, which, okay, that's not too bad. That doesn't take too long to grind up to. It's like, okay, well, that's not too bad. But it gets even worse, because by the time you get up to like Whitney, I'm pretty sure you end up having, like, Whitney I think is like in the late 20s. So again, that might not be too bad, but it does eventually get worse and worse and worse. Up to the point, and so you're now thinking, okay, well, at that rate, you're probably going to end up running into, like, level 100s by Kanto, or something like that. Like, maybe, like, the most powerful Pokemon in the game is, like, Red's Pikachu at level 100. That doesn't sound too bad, right? Here's the good news. Red's Pikachu is not at level 100. Here's the bad news, though. First off, Red does not actually have a Pikachu in this game. Instead, he's got a team full of uber powerful Pokemon. I believe there is a Celebi in that team. I believe there is also a... What else is there? I'm pretty sure there's a Dragonite. I think there's a Suicune in there as well. There's a Snorlax as far as I'm aware. I can't remember what the other two. But, yeah, none of them are at level 100. So that's good news, right? Here's where the other part of bad news comes in. They may not be level 100. But they are somewhere around about the vicinity of level 130. I'll give you a moment to just sort of process that. If you're looking for your first level 100 encounter of the game, full stop, this is where it gets even stupider. You just go to Route 35. There is a random schmuck, a random bug catcher there, that has a single Pokemon in the form of a Weedle. You see this thing come out and you're like, okay, well that's going to be a pushover. It then shows you that it's level 100. I don't know what the gimmick is with that, but it is very stupid. It is very hilarious. All it really is just a Weedle that can hit slightly harder than normal Weedle and can take hits better. As long as you've got decent super effective moves, you should be able to knock them out pretty easily. And this is like at Route 35, you're going to probably have a team of somewhere between 25 and 30. So it's doable. I've done it. I didn't need to save state, so it's not that difficult. It's just you have to hit enough times and hit hard enough times and stuff like that. So It's doable. I think that's the point there. It's doable. And there's also that gimmick also runs with people having level 100 forms of baby Pokemon. I'm not too sure if there is a level 100 Magby or like a Lekid or anything like that. I know there's like someone with a level 100 Sunkern, just because Sunkern is so shitty. But if you take those out of the equation, the first level 100 that you actually encounter is actually Cynthia's Kingdra. And so you just kind of wonder, well, if you're coming across level 100 Kingdras, then what the hell are you dealing with later on in the game? Well, obviously you're going to be dealing with stuff in the mid-90s up towards 100 going through routes 27, 26, Victory Road and that sort of stuff. Your rival probably has a team full of level 100s. And then, as you would have expected, because Red is such a ridiculously high level, the Elite Four themselves actually go above level 100. I think Lance's Ace Dragonite is like level 110 or something like that. I can't quite remember. It's been a year since I played through the games. But it is it's very terrible. And as one last little icing on the cake here, when you actually finally go into the mainland of Kanto, every single wild Pokemon that you come across is literally level 100. So you could throw away the team that you have on you right now, catch 6 random Pokemon that you can find somewhere in Kanto, and throw together a brand new team that will actually do reasonably well. You don't do that. Whoever the hell hacked this ROM, you just don't do that. That is stupid. And I still have one more thing to talk about, but I'm up against Brock here, so I'll try to remember to talk about that once I'm done with this fight. Now, it might not be the best idea to lead with Kaizo here, because the obvious weakness to Rock, but I've got Surf, I've got Specs Surf. Well, in this case, it's going to be Specs Thunderbolt, because that's just the better option here. I'm not too sure if the Zombie has Protect. It probably... I imagine it would have gone with that first up just to scout out my moves and lock me into a move that I might not have wanted to, but here I wanted to go with Thunderbolt, and the Specs boost puts me over the top of the Omastar. It is a 6 versus 5 immediately. Good stuff. Now, Sudowoodo. I'd like to give out even amounts of screen time here, so obviously I can deal with this thing in like 3 different ways here. So I'll go with the Trap Tricks. It wouldn't actually surprise me here if the Sudowoodo had a fighting move of some variety to deal with Trap Tricks. So I may opt for the Sleep Powder on this occasion. Works out reasonably well. Now just gotta hope it stays asleep long enough for me to get into Swords Dance and put this thing on its ass. There's one Swords Dance. And asleep it remains. Good stuff. That'll be a Seed Bomb to death. I think at this point in time, I've pretty much decided to sit on the Seed Bomb. I don't really see any real reason to go after Power Whip, because Seed Bomb's already powerful enough if you get a Swords Dance or 2 up. If you're going to have that extra power coming from the stat-up move, there's not much point in sacrificing accuracy if you don't need to. Relicanth is 4 times weak to Seed Bomb, so I see absolutely no reason to switch out here. Seed Bomb sweep. Speed up the bars going down animation, whatever the hell that you call that thing. Kabutops. You're dead now. I have to say, I didn't expect Bulbat to do a whole lot, and obviously I didn't really have too many plans to do so, but whatever. I probably should have switched out to somebody else just to like give him a chance to win, but I don't know, I guess that wouldn't count as like giving it your all against him, in which case I'm just like, well, I've set up, I've kicked your ass, you've got... Like, rock types in general have a habit of being really, really slow. Onix actually has a bit of speed on it. His Ace at 61 as well. I don't know why he says it itches. I keep thinking that that's got something to do with Professor Ivy. because he spent some time with her in the anime, but I don't know if Professor Ivy's even an actual existence in the anime in any way, shape, or form. In the games in any way, shape, or form. Holds on with the focus sash, and then stone edges me into oblivion. But fails to actually kill me. Oh, shit, yeah, I forgot full restore. Alright. You dead now? No, dead now. In before Onyx just somehow uses Accelerock. So there that goes. Trap Tricks holding the amulet coin gives me double cash stack is also quite nice. And here we have the first of the Kanto badges. We're in a good mood today. And there's the other Rock Slide TM. And so that's the only two Rock Slide TMs that are... yeah, more phone numbers. It's a good thing that you actually get handed the phone numbers here. Because normally you'd have to, like, find them in certain areas during certain times of the day in order to actually get their phone number, and then you have to ring them at some other time of the day in order to arrange a rematch for them, and they will appear at the Fighting Dojo over in Saffron City. I imagine I will probably be doing these rematches at some point in the future. I'm just hoping that I don't forget about them. I shouldn't, because they're quite noteworthy. But I think we're about done here. Could have a quick gander. Actually, there is one thing I would like to show off. Just in here, there's this weird book. And it actually tells you about legendaries. Goes through the Kanto stuff and blah 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 blah. It tells you about Articuno, Zapdos, blah 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 blah, and shows you an image of them. As far as I'm aware, these are all Heart Gold Soul Silver sprites. Tells you about the stuff of the Johto region. Raikou, Entei, Suicune. I think those are all 4th gen sprites. That's 4th gen. I know that's 4th gen. We'll be picking that up at some point in the future, because I can go back and get it, since I have access to Johto. And then there's Celebi. Most of the mythicals aren't accessible until you have all 16 badges, so I'm not going to bother trying to worry too much about those, but at least bringing them up here just for people to have a bit of a gander at is always nice. Now, the Reggies here, I believe, are actually 5th gen sprites, because I had to look up an actual image of the shiny Regirock when I was worrying myself silly about whether or not I'd actually found one in that other segment. Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza are literally the only Pokemon that require you to beat Red in order to capture. So, yeah, there you go. We actually do have to knock Red over before we go and fight Arceus. And then, when they talk about Sinnoh, talks about a whole bunch of other shit, and then shows you all of these. But you'll also notice that it doesn't mention Arceus. Instead, it just mentions the Lake Trio, the Creation Trio, Heatran, Regigigas, Cresselia, Manaphy, Darkrai, and Shaman. And then talks about something else that part of the Sinnoh group. And then it says the collection of all 16 plate items is necessary to even catch a glimpse of the legendary. Blah 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 blah. Pretty much. And then it talks about Fione, and for some reason this book just decides it's not a legendary, it's just a regular Pokemon. I don't have much of an opinion over whether or not Fione is legendary or mythical or not. It just exists, and it's a pretty damn rare Pokemon, so I'm not that fussed over it. I also like how it says Universion is also considered that the rest of the pages are blank or ripped up. I like how it starts to talk about Univer and then it's just like, nope. I'm not too sure what the inspiration behind that was, but whatever. Anyways, I'll be going back to that house later on in the playthrough. I don't exactly know when, but I'll have a quick gander in the museum. Maybe I can trigger something to happen over here. It does not look like the case. No. Because you're supposed to be able to find Steven in in that house with the legendary book, and he's supposed to give you the other 2 Hoenn starters if you show him the one you got earlier in the playthrough. Obviously, I can't do that because he's not there. I think I remember reading up about some kind of bug that actually prevents him from showing up at a certain point. That being said, I believe Stevenez actually needed to trigger the roaming Lati in this game, so I may have to trigger that event to occur before I go and grab the Hoenn starters. So that would actually make a whole lot of sense. So I've already knocked over this schmuck in the previous segment, so let's start off with a double battle here. We'll lead with... Floofin's the lowest level, but I'll go with Bulbat Trap Tricks. 1, because I want to show off Bulbat's... Or at least test out Bulbat's moveset, and 2, to get a double cash stack. Anyways, back to the Crystal Kaizo playthrough. Once I've worked out exactly what it is that I was talking about to rub it right into your face. Okay, I'm not too sure if this is exactly what I was going to talk about, but it is actually a topic worth discussing anyway. Because on top of having exceedingly overpowered Pokemon at stupidly high levels and having them be in full teams of 6... In addition to all of this, all of the gym leaders, your rival, rocket executives, all that sort of stuff, have full shiny teams. Just to rub it even further in your face. So you go up against Red, he's just got Green Dragonite, overly blue Snorlax, he's got a Celebi, which is pink. And so, you just have to deal with that. And so when you fight your rival for the first time, you just sort of freak out because the first thing you see is just a shiny starter that's good against yours. That's basically how that works. And it's very, very stupid the way that it works, because why would it not be? It's very, very dumb. And I'm not entirely sure what the point of it even was. So, there you go. Also, Traptrix is now dead. Staraptor has very, very high physical attack, and a move as powerful as Brave Bird is pretty much kryptonite to Traptrix. That's quite depressing because it leaves that Poliwrath around. And... really? Okay. Apparently Traptrix is the slowest Pokemon on the board there. I don't know why that would be the case, unless Staraptor's got like Tangled Feet or something. Or like something that... Isn't there like an ability that increases your speed if you have a status condition? I think that's Tangled Feet. Well, I think Tangled Feet only works if you're confused. Whatever. Throw a Sludge Bomb at it, that'll kill it. Got the +2 special attack with Nasty Plot. So there you go, Staraptor, and I've got a Thunderbolt on its way to smash that Poliwrath into the middle of next week. And Turbo Drum makes it a 58. Good stuff. And you can die now. So, there you go. And so, of course, given that this is a terrible, terrible ROM hack, the obvious solution to this is to have some ridiculous level of luck occur to you that makes it all the more memorable for generations to come. Couldn't have picked any better than to just have me encounter 2 shinies on the same fucking day. And so, yeah, that is quite literally what happened. I was looking around about the route west of Cerulean for a bunch of Pokemon. It just seemed to be filled to the brim with, like, poison types. And then I just sort of saw an Arbok, okay, saw a Weezing, okay, saw another Arbok, okay, saw a shiny Weezing. Oh, shit. Hello, chum. That's literally the first thing I thought of when I found this shiny Weezing. And so, as a result, when I actually did nab it, I named it Chum. There you go. And then, about 7 hours later, when I was looking around in Mount Silver, and I think I was like grinding a few of my older team members up who hadn't reached level 100 yet, I just sort of came across a shiny Executor, and was just like, usually when something like that happens, I try to react like, I try to, like, emulate Boaty in my reactions. I don't know, I have absolutely no idea why. It's very, very stupid, but in this case, I did just that, and it was very, very dumb. So I eventually did catch it. I named it Tunacock. Yes, I know that sounds very, very suggestive, but it's actually coconut backwards. Tunococ. It does sound like Tunacock. So, could just call it Tuno Cock or something like that, but still has cock in it. Yeah, basically, just rule number 1, don't ever let your friend eat something with the word cock in it. It's just common sense, right? And then you just sort of stand in front of him, a lot less homosexual, think of Neville, think of Neville. I should have timed that to just smash this thing with a freaking superpower. Let's try this again. Think of Neville, fucking bang! I didn't even kill it, come on! Fucking dick. Alright, I'll throw a rock slide at it. No, stop with the protect crap. Stupid idiot. Right, you. Talia gets some screen time as a result of this. Because you just sort of die to earth power. Yep. Oh yeah, I remember something else about the Crystal Kaizo. In any Pokemon game, it goes without saying, if you catch a Pokemon early on, and you train it up, it gets stronger and it evolves and stuff like that. If you come across, like, a wild of the evolved Pokemon that you have, your Pokemon's just obviously going to be stronger, right? Now, obviously that's still the case with EVs, but here's the real kicker that turns the game on its head. If you catch a Ghastly, let's just use Ghastly for an example. If you catch a Ghastly, and you evolve it into a Gengar, your Gengar is obviously going to have the stats, but in comparison to a Gengar that you find in the wild, it is going to have a far, far shittier moveset. How in the hell is this possible? Well, it turns out that with certain Pokemon, their evolved forms are just set to get all the good moves from that evolution line at a level where you pretty much have to use a move tutor in order to teach these moves to it. The problem, however, is that there is no move tutor in Crystal. So as a result, if you want a Gengar with a good moveset, you actually have to catch a wild Gengar. If you catch a wild Ghastly and evolve it into a Gengar, it is going to be shit. Aside from the stat boost. But yeah, it's going to be shit. I cannot begin to imagine what the maker of this ROM hack was thinking when he or she gave these Pokemon these moves, such stupid movesets. Some Pokemon I actually restricted. I actually simplified down to the point of having literally only 4 moves that they have in their moveset. One of the biggest offenders of this is Heracross, and this is going to be the first team member that I talk about here. My Heracross, which I named Kawaga. I didn't want to name it Kawagamon because it looked nothing like the actual Kawagamon Digimon. But its only move, when I first caught it around about 25 to 30 or something like that, was Submission. And would you believe it, that was actually good enough to keep it on the team. Just the one move, but it was still good enough to stay on the team. It did not get another move until level 50. It then got another move at 52. It then got its last move at 54. Its final move set as a result of that was Submission, Mega Horn, Rock Slide, and Earthquake. And that is it. It doesn't learn any other moves in its level up move pool, except for Mega Horn again and again and again at level 224. That's according to the, editing software that I opened this hack up in and looked at Heracross's moveset. That's how stupid it is. And it's stupid for all the other ones as well. So it's very, very dumb. Not to mention as well, in regards to my team, I was actually in a situation where I pretty much had to use team members that were actually suggested by the hacker themselves. And so this is probably the only playthrough where I will ever use a Shuckle or a Wobbuffet, unless I do a mystery egg run and somebody sends me one and I have to use it. I hope to God that does not happen, because that would be freaking terrible. Oh, I can't even begin to tell you how horrendous it would be trying to freaking raise a fucking Shuckle from level 1. That'd be terrible. Anyhow, there's an arena. Also, there's a Pidgeotto. Again, nothing that I really need to catch. It's Friday as well now, so there's no radio sounds. Not that I would really care about it, because again, I keep having to reiterate this. I don't have access to the radio here until I get the expansion cards, so there you go. That's good stuff. Anyhow, not much to really talk about in regards to the Shuckle and the Wobbuffet. The Wobbuffet had the typical moveset that you would expect it to have. It worked fine. Safeguard protected status. Counter and Mirror Coat do what they do, and Destiny Bond was a decent shout, solely for the purpose of just being like, okay, use it, and then if your opponent kills you, then you've guaranteed 1 death on the opponent's team. That's basically all it does. And then Shuckle was basically just a Toxic Staller. Toxic, Sandstorm, Stall out, that sort of stuff. And just sort of heal out. And that's basically all that it did. The remainder of the team comes in the form of a shiny Charizard, which in this game was actually purple instead of black. This came from the Odd Egg. The Odd Egg in these games was guaranteed to... well, not these games, but this game. The Odd Egg in this game was guaranteed to hatch into a shiny. It could hatch into any of the 6 starters. It could hatch into Eevee. It could hatch into Tyrogue with... It could actually hatch into 2 different Tyrogue. They have the same moveset, but the moveset is in a different order depending on whether it would evolve into Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan. And obviously you'd have to sort of push your own influence into that in order to evolve it into either the other one that you want, or Hitmontop or something like that. So there's that, and of course it's obviously shiny. I think it evolves in... I think it can hatch also into Smoochum, Magby, and Elekid. I'm not too sure if it can hatch into any of the other baby Pokemon. I don't think it can. I think that's about all it can hatch into. Oh, and the Pseudo Legends, so it can hatch into Shiny Dratini or Larvitar as well. So that's just kind of nice. I decided to go with Charmander because Shiny Charizard was awesome. Aside from the fact that it was purple, I prefer it to be black. And as a result, the nickname I actually gave it was not quite fitting for it. I named it Shakarexis, which is actually the name of the King Black Dragon boss from RuneScape. I figured if it was going to be black, that it would actually... it would work to a decent level. Because the other thing about KBD is that it has 3 heads, and Charizard obviously only has 1. So, it worked out fine. I used the Suicune. I went and picked up the Suicune, like the actual Suicune, and I decided to use that. Named it Cascada, because it just sounded something a bit like water, and it worked out quite fine. I used the Dragonite. I named this one Stardust, after Stardust Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was about as good as I expected it to be. I'm not too sure if I found it as is, or if I caught like a Dratini or something like that. I think I actually got the Extreme Speed Dratini and raced it from that. So I think that worked out pretty well, like with Extreme Speed, just outspeeding stuff like that. I used a Gengar, named it Poltamon, after... I don't think there is actually a real Digimon called Poltamon yet. They really should be. I know a few people have, like, dubbed it as a Fanmon, myself included. I think I actually have a RuneScape account called Poltamon. I can't remember what the password was, though, so I can't really mess around with it. And at the moment, I'm only really at a level to afford paying membership for one account anyway, so there you go. Probably not going to mess around with any of that either. If I'm gonna have another account, I might as well just make a new one and just make it into an Iron Man. I might just make it into like a hardcore Iron Man on old school, just so that like I wouldn't really care like if I died, because I'd still have the Iron Man status. So there you go. And then lastly was an Electabuzz. Obviously I did not have the ability to evolve it because it was Gen 2, so I was quite happy to stick with the base Electabuzz and roll with that throughout the entirety of the playthrough. I named this thing Static. Just static with a random Z in it, because Z for Zap or whatever. I'm not too sure how restrictive the level up move pools were on most of these. Just because memory is failing me at this point, and my throat is freaking tearing me to shreds. And I'm 35 minutes into the segment, there's like 2 or 3 more trainers I have to fight before fighting the rival, so I may just like reserve the rival fight for next time or something like that. But whatever. Let's hope this guy's got a fighting type on his team or something like that. Yeah, I can fight you if you want. So yeah, there's Primate. Does Anticipation go off here? No, it does not. Okay, that's cool. Hypnosis? No? Oh wait, no, that's Vital Spirit. Okay. In that case, let me go ahead and full heal here. Because I can't put it to sleep. Get up a nasty plot. Punishment. That does more damage for the more stat boost you have, isn't it? Doesn't it? And that would be obnoxious, but Air Slash with plus your special attack will put this Prime up on its ass 99 times out of 100. That 100th time he is holding a Focus Ash. Vigoroth. I could probably throw a Sludge Bomb at it. See what it does. If it doesn't kill, it should hopefully poison, but thankfully it killed anyway, so I think I'm quite happy with that. Now, Breloom, this thing can get Mark Punch, but I quad resist it, so it's not going to matter to me. I'll just murder it with a Sludge Bomb. Air Slash would have actually been quite effective, so that probably would have been the better choice, but whatever. Do I have any unwell Pokemon? Well, Bulbat's the only one, really, but whatever. Yeah, because I want to actually... I'm going to leave with Floof in here, just because I want to get him to 58. Should probably see how close he is to 58 here. That works. I could actually switch him out and he would still get to 58. I would do that, because I don't want this Weezing to blow up and kill it. Kaizo. Just uses double hit. Okay. Dragon Pulse. You die. There's 58. And you know what that means. Flablets. I'm quite satisfied now that I actually have a very powerful fire move on this thing. This thing is going to wreck house. And aside from potentially getting rid of Rock Slide for Stone Edge, I believe that is about it for Floofin's moveset. This is probably what it's going to be sticking with, unless I can find something that's actually better than Quick Attack, maybe. But Quick Attack's pretty decent, because it's just like a nice little whittling move. And it just sort of takes out anything that held on with, like, Sash or anything like that, so... I don't see any real reason to get rid of it right now, unless there's, like, something that really, really compels me to do so. I also like how the Magcargo tanked my superpower there. And is going to then proceed to murder Floofin with Earth Power. Fuck you too, Magcargo. Fuck you too. Just to rub it in your face, I'm going to send in Bulbat and kill you with an Air Slash. Say it with me now. Air Slash! Good. Now, I will wrap up the Crystal Kaizo playthrough by announcing that I did not go after every single Pokemon, because that's some fucking bullshit, especially with the box management in those games. So, there you go. I caught only the legendaries, what I needed to have, and whatnot. There is actually one other thing that I just remembered I needed to talk about in regards to that. So I'm now debating whether or not I want to include the rival fight in here, or just sort of talk about that at a later point. Fuck it, I'll just talk about it at a later point. I'm just going to end the segment here since I'm at the Pokemon Center. Next time we're going to fight the rival, proceed on to Cerulean, and see what kind of shenanigans we can get up to over there. So, I will see you for that. Yay for 2 days of resting my voice. I only just realized that this is Friday's segment. Well done, me. Alright, I'm done. No more rambling. I will see you next week.